Let's dive a little deeper. You're obviously a leader in the provision of sustainability software, and we know this area is ripe for transformation with extraordinary potential, which is something that I also learnt during my thesis year working with Invisi. But there are still systemic challenges in Australia and also on a global scale. So from your perspective, what can or should government, organisations and individuals do to help change the narrative?
It's a big area, and let's start with the word narrative. I think thankfully the narrative has changed. I lived through the first decade or so of Invisi's life where there virtually wasn't a narrative around sustainability. In the last 3 or 4 years, I think we would all acknowledge that has changed, and so we have a great narrative now. So I think we're really moving from, and I often talk to people about, we're moving from the phase of advocacy, which is linked to the narrative, to the phase of action. And so it really becomes a question is, what are governments, organisations and individuals going to do collectively to ensure that we can get the level of action that we need to tackle climate change and drive decarbonisation? I think if you look at them individually from a government perspective, and I certainly don't want to sit here and soapbox around previous governments or present governments, but I think it's fair to say that the former government did not do enough to create a political level of political stability and create certainty for organisations to go and make the investments that they needed to make in areas like renewables in particular and other areas of decarbonisation. These are big long-term bets that corporations have got to make. And if you haven't got comfort around government policy and longevity of that policy, very difficult to go and drive business decisions. So I think the first thing the governments have got to do is create that right, that level of stability in and around policy, and I think the new government is clearly doing that, which is great. I think government's also got to lead the way. It's one thing to talk the talk, but you've got to be able to walk the walk as well. And it'll be interesting to see to what extent the current government does actually embrace decarbonisation across its significant assets, through its real estate portfolios, defence, all those things. These are, the government is a significant emitter. So hopefully we'll see government at least leading by example as well, and hopefully through the course of this year into next year we'll start to get some kind of insight as to how government approaches that. I think organisations, corporations is really where the game is at. This is the engine of the economy, and this is where we're going to see the greatest levels of change. Obviously the policy environment will drive some of that change through a combination of regulation, but hopefully also incentives for corporations. The big challenge for organisations is how do you get from these lofty goals into driving changes. It's not easy to decarbonise the cement industry or the steel industry, and some of the early organisations to make great progress, well, they're in, relatively speaking, simpler businesses. Commercial real estate, you can electrify quickly, you can purchase offsets. So there are some significant challenges for organisations, and what they will need to do is create the right environments for innovation. They'll need to create the right incentives for their people. They'll need to link it to remuneration, create those KPIs so that people feel empowered. Some of the things we've been talking about, are organisations going to show the leadership? Are they going to inspire the innovation, create the platforms? But I think fundamentally that's where the big battle is going to be won or lost in terms of how well organisations are going to be able to drive these net zero decarbonisation pathways.